Hello comrades, you're watching RedIvan Military, and today we'll talk about uniform and equipment of the US military personnel in Somalia in 1993. As you may have noticed, a specific unit was not mentioned in the title, because soldiers and marines from various units at that time used the same uniform and equipment and the same firearms, with some nuances, and they differed mostly in a few minor features, such as the 8-pointed cap and the USMC insignia among marines. Therefore, the elements we'll discuss today will be suitable for almost any unit of the Army or the Marine Corps during that period. Personally, in my presentation, I focus on the soldier from the United States Army Force Command, because with my equipment I use this M16A1, and by the way, YouTube, this is not a real rifle, this is an airsoft replica. And I only could find 3 such rifles on the pictures from Somalia. 1 with a radio man from the 10th Mountain Division, and 2 with a military police officer and a soldier from the United States Army Force Command. Moving from the specific to the general, in the overwhelming majority of the photographs, soldiers and marines are seen with M16A2 rifles. But as usual, we'll talk about the weaponry closer to the end. Let's start with the uniform, the headgear. For the most part, these were bunny hats in 6-color or 3-color desert camouflages. Sometimes US Army caps and Marine Corps 8-pointed caps were utilized as well. Talking about uniforms, we need to discuss both patterns. The United States owes the adoption of the 6-color desert camouflage pattern, commonly known as chocolate chip, to Israel. In constant readiness to support their allies in the recurrent conflicts of 60s and 70s, the United States have been initiating and then freezing the development of the desert camouflage. One way or another, in 1971, the first prototypes of the 6-color desert pattern appeared alongside with the local piggy pattern. This pattern was created with a focus on the terrain of the southwest United States and was tested there. Pay attention to the cut, similar to that of the tropical combat uniform. The first large batches for testing, produced in 1972, were already made in so-called RDF cut, referring to the uniform and pattern of the Rapid Deployment Forces, RDF ERDL. In the 80s, uniforms in this pattern were selectively issued to various units in the cut similar to BDU, known as DBDU, Desert Battle Dress Uniform. The cut of the DBDU was nearly identical to the standard BDU, but the key word is nearly. There were some minor differences. For example, the white collar, which could be seen only on the first generation of the BDU, remained on the DBDU for the entire production period. The camouflage pattern also evolved and had 3 main versions. By the way, for this material and some other used in this video, I want to thank the channel called Uniform History. This is a very interesting channel where you can find a lot of videos about uniform and camouflage patterns history of different countries. Coming back to 6-color desert camouflage pattern, the most widespread use of the uniform in this pattern was during the Gulf War, and specifically Operation Desert Storm. And suddenly, the feedback on its performance was negative. Who could have known that the pattern tested in the southwest United States will not be suitable for use in the Middle East? Additionally, the uniform heated up quickly due to the large amount of dark brown. However, it should be noted that the United States Armed Forces began developing a new desert pattern back in 1985 based on the user's feedback and experience from developing camouflage pattern to conceal armored vehicles of the Saudi Armed Forces. In 1989, the final testing concluded that the best was the three-color desert pattern, commonly known as coffee stain. The same year, the first DBDU sets in this pattern were introduced, and during the Gulf War in 1990, it could be seen in limited quantities within some units in conflict, but mainly high-ranked officers, while most of the testing occurred in the support units in Saudi Arabia. By October of that year, the pattern was officially approved and began appearing more frequently in the troops by the end of the war. The uniform in this pattern is called DCU, Desert Combat Uniform, although it is fundamentally not different from the BDU. At the time of the events in Somalia, the six-color desert camouflage uniform was more widespread in the region, especially among the Marines. From my observation, in 1992, all Marines arrived wearing the six-color desert camouflage, as did most soldiers of the 10th Mountain Division. However, by the end of the conflict, the three-color desert camouflage pattern had gained more popularity. We won't delve into the cut of the uniforms in this video, as there are no significant differences from the BDU. For those of you who want to know more details about the BDU cut, watch my video about Grenada. I'll just clarify that the cut of the DBDU fully repeats the second type of the BDU cut, but features a white color and lacks side adjusters for waist sizing. Since 1990, the three-color desert pattern has been produced in the same DBDU cut. A ripstop version made of 100% cotton or non-ripstop with a 50-50 nylon-cotton blend. Starting in 1993, production on uniforms with a new cut began. The same cut worn by the Rangers in the movie Black Hawk Down. Although this version fully replicates the third type of BDU cut, it was for some reason referred to as the DCU. It features wide cuffs on the sleeves and simplified lower pockets that expanded only outwards. Uniforms in this cut were still made from the earlier fabric variants, and it was not until 1995 that the mass production of the ripstop 50-50 nylon-cotton blend version began, similar to the enhanced hot weather BDU in woodland camouflage. Now, side by side, you see a DCU produced in 1996 and the DCU produced in 1991. While the third type of cut, with some stretching, still be suitable for Somalia conflict era, this specific fabric version was not produced until 1995. So for this video I managed to acquire a rare DCU from 1991 made from non-ripstop 50-50 nylon-cotton blend. And this older cut is the most canonical for 1993 because the army does not issue uniforms straight from the factory. Under the uniform a brown t-shirt was worn, which has been used by the US Army since the mid-80s and completely replacing olive drab ones by the mid-90s. Gloves. The following two types of gloves were mainly used. Heavy-duty cattle-hide leather work gloves, also known as rappelling gloves, were used for fast roping, and I doubt that this guy was rappelling somewhere for his police duties. Also there were Nomex flight gloves, which were originally issued to pilots. Footwear. Desert boots as a concept might have been seen in the photos of the experimental six-color camouflage. However, during the Operation Desert Storm, most US troops were primarily issued tropical boots from the Vietnam era. Legend has it that the initiative to introduce boots for the hot climate in the sand-colored pattern came directly from General Schwarzkopf himself. He enjoyed wearing Saudi-made desert boots and shaped the requirements for the American model based on his personal experience. Now you can see the picture of the first model of American hot weather desert boots made by Natick Labs and officially named Boot Hot Weather Type 2. Why Type 2 we'll figure out a bit later, but first let's debunk a few myths. These boots were produced by Velco in November 1990, and there are photos from their issuance in 1991, and they are used during the later stages of Desert Storm. This is exactly how they were intended to look. A sand-colored boot, a sand-colored sole, nylon edging, nylon reinforcement, with no eyelets for water drainage. However, during use, the soles turned black and the boots took on a reddish tint. Again, this is not a matter of different generations or production batches. It is purely due to the wrong choice of materials. My boots produced in November 1990, the sole is still in tan color, but in some areas they already started turning black. And regarding the reddish tint, it is also just a matter of time. After the first wash, in some areas they already got this reddish tint. One subscriber even sent me pictures where he had lightly peeled off the black sole on his boots, revealing their tan interior. However, this model did not satisfy General Schwarzkopf, and he demanded that Velco made some changes. By 1991, the production of the upgraded model had begun. The official name remained Boot Hot Weather Type 2, but we'll refer to them as Gen 2. The side reinforcements were now made of reversed leather, and the upper part became softer, while still lacking drainage eyelets. The production started in January of 1991. This model was produced by the companies like Altama, Velco, McRae and Belleville at least until 1995. Fast forward to 1997, third generation boots were already being produced, with nylon reinforcement reintroduced. These boots are familiar to many from the 2003 Iraq invasion. By the way, these third generation boots were produced without drainage eyelets up until mid-2000s. So during the early stage of the Iraq invasion, the third generation boots without drainage eyelets were used. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any boots produced in 1995 and 1996. So I can't tell you for sure where the second generation was replaced with the third. But what I can tell you is that during the events in Somalia, most soldiers were wearing hot weather boots Type 2 of the second generation, with occasional sightings of the first generation and the appearance of the hot weather boots Type 1. The fact is that the hot climate does not always mean desert terrain. So the US Army also utilized hot weather boots made of black leather. Essentially, these were fully black tropical boots, but with quick lacing, and they are very similar to the desert boots of the first generation. As we remember, the first generation desert boots were immediately rejected by General Schwarzkopf, while the black version was produced without changes up until around 1993, and only then features of the second generation were added. Try to guess who is Boromir and who is Faramir in this family. Body armor. Of course, iconic PASGT helmet was used. It was issued with a 6-color desert cover, or less commonly, a 3-color desert cover. Along with helmets, soldiers often wore SWDG goggles, sun, wind and dust protective. These protective goggles against wind, dust and sun have a history of use dating back to World War II. Interestingly, the design of these goggles clearly served as the inspiration for the Russian 6B50 goggles. The problem with these goggles is that with age they become brittle, so I decided to avoid using them in my set. Body armor vests. The Rangers wore RBA, Ranger body armor, with protective plate. Interestingly, the first generation used in Somalia featured the plate only in the front. Regular infantrymen and marines wore old good PASGT fragmentation vest. These were worn both with covers in chocolate chip or coffee stain camouflage, as well as without covers. In this video I wanted to show you a nice setup, so I exclusively bought a 6-color tethered camouflage cover. And this is the most unintuitive, uncomfortable and hard to wear thing, which even when fitted tightly hangs like a bed sheet. The cover has straps for additional equipment, but since it hangs loose, you can't really attach anything to it. In contrast, it was common to attach magazine pouches or holsters for pistols to a bare vest. There was an idea back in the 80s to release desert version of the PASGT vest, but apparently there was not enough money. Load-bearing systems. Most soldiers use the LC2 web belt with a plastic Kovac buckle. In some pictures LC1 and LC2 belts with butterfly buckle could be seen, but we'll not discuss it in details in this video. If you are interested in LE system and its generations, watch my video about Grenada. Here I will only list my setup. 2 magazine pouches for M16 magazines, an M12 holster with a Beretta M9 in it, 2 canteens on the back, usually with caps that had adapters for gas mask, a medical pouch that could be swapped out for a backpack, a dressing/compass pouch where I have my dressing, 2 pistol mag pouches, and an angled flashlight on the shoulder. Finally, I found some use for the later version. You can also spot LBV and Grenadier vests in some pictures. I am not a big fan of the M12 holster, and despite its versatility, in my opinion this is the most impractical item ever adopted by the US Army, and holsters before it, such as leather holster for the M1911 pistol, or after it, such as Safariland or Black Hawk, did its job better. And it has also a relatively short lifespan, but we'll talk about this in another video. Soldiers also used the LE system backpack. Due to the nature of the conflict, it was mostly transported in vehicles. Gas mask in the gas mask bag. There was also a folding shovel in a plastic case like this, and some personal belongings, like glasses. In addition to Ray-Ban sunglasses, standard issue eyeglasses were also common, humorously nicknamed birth control glasses, because they were said to discourage any romantic interest from afar. Weapons. Most soldiers carried M16A2 rifles issued with M9 bayonet, which interestingly is based on the AK bayonet. In my case I have an M16A1 rifle. As I mentioned earlier, I have found it only on 3 pictures. But by 3 pictures, I mean the pictures where I can guarantee that I see this rifle. Given the quality of the pictures and videos from that era, it is not always easy to do so, especially if the rifle is equipped with M203. It is obvious that there were not that many M16A1s during that conflict, but at the same time I can guarantee you that there were not 3 for the entire contingent. I would estimate around 5% for the rear units and support troops, or specialists, as seen with the radio men from the 10th Mountain Division we discussed before. US troops were also issued with M60 machine guns, M249 machine guns, M203 underbarrel grenade launchers, Beretta M9 pistols. The sniper rifles included the M24 of the Army and the M40 of the Marines, both of which are based on the Remington 700, but with some nuances. According to participants, there were also some Barrett anti-material rifles. I couldn't find any pictures of them in use in 1993, however subscribers sent me the photo from 1995. Special forces had various Colt carbines, like the 723 or 727, but the regular soldiers did not have such luxury. Now let's see how it all looks together. I hope you like this video. Subscribe to my channel, put like, comment, share this video with your friends. If you want to help channel financially, links are in the description, and also we have YouTube subscription available for you. Thank you very much. See you next time.